motion that we accept the minutes.
Second?
I'll second. This is Adam.
Well, Jeff beat you to it, Adam.
Good job, Jeff.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, report on council actions.
I don't believe Councilman Haverfield is online. So I'd be happy to report on the two items. There were two items. One was a zoning map amendment from RA to RD for a multifamily development at 1204 11th Avenue North. The commission recommended approval, and that change was approved as recommended. The second one was an annexation and zoning to RP and a preliminary plat approval for Maple Leaf Townhomes. This is just east of Happy Valley on Stam Lane. And the commission had recommended this was for 94 single-family residential buildable lots. These were proposed as townhomes, up to 4 units in a single building, but they were townhomes. And the commission recommended approval. This is directly across from JCPenney on Stam Lane. And the council denied the annexation and the zoning and of course the subdivision as well. And
What did Rodney? Sorry, did you say the city council denied it?
They did. So they went up against what the commission recommended, and there was a lot of people there, as there was when you considered it. These were primarily county residents who were concerned about the rural lifestyle that was in that area, being able to have cows and goats and that kind of thing. And so the Councilman Haverfield knew that he commented that he would have to report back to you on the reasons behind that. And so he asked for clarification. They did give some clarification, but staff is going to be bringing the specific findings back to City Council for them to adopt those reasons for why they made that decision. We felt like there was enough confusion in the meeting that we need clarification as staff. But essentially, they wanted more open space. They wanted it more family friendly. They were concerned about access to Stam Lane, and that there was no playground or anything in the development. And so they were concerned about that. And they were concerned about the density. And so those are some of the things that we'll bring back to them for the formal findings to adopt. And I'll report back at that time whether they adopt that or not. But those were the primary reasons. Any questions for me about those?
Randy, do you happen to know the vote on that?
So I believe it was unanimous. Is that correct? It was unanimous. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Rodney. Okay, business item number 1.
Okay, that's me as well. Okay. So the item before you this evening, I almost said morning, still waking up, I guess, is a a mobile home park to replace a prior mobile home park at 125 First Street North in Nampa. And this is for Kiwi Enterprises, LLC, represented by Jeff Hatch. And Jeff Hatch is online. If there there's a desire for any questions to be answered. But in a business item, you typically wouldn't have the applicant present unless there's questions.
Okay.
Just a real quick analysis of this. The existing zoning is ILRS. It's one of those weird zones where we have two, and they essentially have to pick something. So to the northeast is First Street North. It's zoned RML, limited multifamily residential, and there are single-family homes and mobile homes on single-family lots. To the northwest is ILRS, single-family homes. To the southwest is Railroad. To the southeast is ILRS, a mobile home park, and single-family homes. So it's consistent with the area and what's in that area.
There's nothing showing up on your screens up there. I see it on my laptop because I'm in the team meeting, but
There we go. Thanks, Mark. So I'll go back to that. There's the zoning map there. Right off of North Side and First Street North. So it is just less than an acre, 0.89 acres. The mobile home lots being proposed are 6. The common lots are not accurate. I'm not sure why. There's 22 there, but that's not correct. And I'll go over the specific layout of the plan in just a minute. Planning and zoning history, the Nampa Planning and Zoning Commission voted to approve a CUP for a new mobile home park and an exception to the 5-acre minimum area required on March 10th, 2020. The commission conditioned approval on a density not to exceed 6.74 mobile homes per acre. So this consideration before you tonight is not to determine whether this is an appropriate location. That's already been decided by you. Primarily, it's to look at what those conditions were and if they are meeting those and if the plan meets the code. So public utilities, all utilities are available in First Street North or in the lot. Transportation, the property has access available from First Street North. Parking, each lot will require a parking space, and alternative parking for RV, boat, etc. is required by code. You can see the plan as they've outlined here is on the screen. So there's 2 existing units that will remain on the property, and then the new ones are in gray and dark gray that are being proposed. Essentially, they meet all the conditions of code. We've gone over this with the applicant several times now and back and forth and just made sure that they meet the code. So I'm going to skip over this a little bit because they meet all those conditions, but happy to get specific if you need. The conditions of approval are in your staff report as well as on the screen here. And the requested action is approval or denial of preliminary site plan for Kiwi Mobile Home Park to replace prior mobile home park at the location mentioned. And staff finds that with the conditions proposed, it substantially conforms to city code and the requirements of the conditional use permit when you granted it in 2020. I would stand for questions.
Rodney, I have a question. Can you pull up the site plan for units 1 and 2?
Let's see.
It doesn't have a page number on here, so I can't tell you what page it is.
I've just got this one on the screen, but this is the this is unit 1 and unit 2 here. Kind of hard to see.
What I'm thinking or questioning is the way it shows on what I'm looking at, unit 2's parking space is in front of unit 1. Is that correct?
So in a mobile home park, there's not we're not dividing the property into separate spots or separate parcels.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could have parking spots in other locations throughout the park. However, there really is only one parking spot required for the property or the mobile home owner or resident, and then you need an additional, what they've shown here is the additional one for for guests who show up.
So the one I'm looking at, it says 1, 2, and 4.
One what?
They can't be parking spaces because you wouldn't have 4 parking spaces.
Oh, that's right.
So what happens if the guy in Unit 1 parks in front of Unit 2's parking space? Then Unit number 2 is going to park on the road, which you said is not going to be allowed.
That's correct. So there are 2 per unit that are required. So there's actually 2 for Unit 2. One right directly next to Unit 2, and then there's the shed, and the shed placement was kind of challenging. We had a specific amount of space. They had to be away from the shed, and it has to be in a certain location according to code, and so the placement of that shed is made that parking lot, or that parking space, challenging. But so you've got the one right next to Unit 2, then the shed, and then the second one for Unit 2
Which isn't right in front of Unit 1.
right next to it and in front of Unit 1, correct.
Will there be any kind of barricade or fencing or anything to keep it from?
Maybe you could ask the applicant that, but not likely.
If these guys aren't good neighbors, I can see a lot of potential conflicts here.
Potentially.
Okay, we'll just notify the police to be on alert. That's all I had.
Okay.
You guys waiting for a motion or something, guys?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary site plan for Kiwi Mobile Home Park to replace a prior mobile home park at 125 First Street North for Jeff Hatch, representing Kiwi Enterprises LLC, with all conditions of.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jeff, second by Ron to approve business item number 1. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. And it's after 7, so we'll go ahead and start the public hearing. Public hearing item number 1, Christie. Huh? Applicant, oh yeah, see, I'm out of practice. Do we have the applicant here in person or online? In person. Come on up to the microphone, give us your name and address for the record, and tell us all about what you want to do.
And I'm here on behalf of Water Tower LLC. I did want to note the notice that went out. The HOA spread the word about the fact that it wasn't going to be City Council, it would be Planning and Zoning Commission. So the proposed plat before you this evening is for 22 lots with an average lot size of 8,991 square feet, adjacent to Dolan Woods subdivision. And Dolan Woods is an elegant subdivision, has beautiful homes and landscaping. Harpwood Estates is intended to complement and be consistent with Dolan Woods. As you're aware, the layout of this parcel was shown on the preliminary plat that was attached to the original development agreement with the approval of Dolan Woods subdivision in 2004-2005. So last week, I became aware of the fact that there were some neighborhood concerns. So to better understand those, a meeting was scheduled as quickly as possible, and I spent several productive hours with one of the co-presidents and another interested party in the HOA. There were several other individuals who were supposed to join us, but they weren't able to come. We did discuss a variety of topics. We talked about lot sizes, anticipated home prices, landscaping and street improvements, access to Roosevelt, joining the HOA, and more. This was followed with email and written notes and a follow-up phone call today. The developer understands the emphasis of the HOA on having to oblige. Based on my discussion with the co-president neighbors, the aesthetic element appears to be the most important concern. Given the fact that there are very few opportunities to develop a new subdivision adjacent to a community like Dahlin Woods, the developer is very much interested in blending, complementing, and being consistent with the adjacent homes. I've read the CC&Rs from front to back, and the project began discussing the Dahlin Woods CC&Rs before the application was submitted. It does appear that there isn't any consensus between the HOA members on the addition of the subdivision into the HOA. There are steps that would need to be taken to annex Hardwood into the HOA. These steps would require the time and financial resources of the HOA. So, in lieu of joining the HOA in Dahlin Woods, the applicant has instructed me to tell you that the CC&Rs of Dahlin Woods will be implemented for Hardwood Estates. There are a few items that will need to be altered, such as the mailboxes. Postal Service now requires cluster boxes, but if they will allow poles in individual boxes, we would be happy to do so. The applicant would like to be able to add metal trim to the roofs, and the Dahlin Woods CC&Rs allow both black and weathered wood colored roofs. The Dahlin Woods CC&Rs call for 2 garage lights and 1 entry light. The applicant would like to implement additional house frontage lighting in lieu of the lantern scheme in Dahlin Woods, as this is the current trend in the more expensive subdivisions across the valley. These are the only deviations. The restriction on parking, recreational vehicles, emphasis on maintaining exteriors and yards would be included in the new CC&Rs for Hardwood Estates and would remain the same as Dahlin Woods. The co-president asked that the construction traffic be limited to Beechwood, and the applicant would be happy to oblige by implementing signage as allowed by the city to direct the trades to enter only on Beechwood. The co-president also asked me to send an email confirming our conversation today, which I will take care of either this evening or tomorrow morning. I wanted to explain that the lots will not be listed in the multiple listing service. The reason for this is that it enables the developer to choose who will build in the subdivision. If the lots are listed in the MLS, that level of discretion isn't possible. So this helps with quality control that both the developer and the adjacent HOA desire. The plat, as you can see, is almost identical to the layout shown in the original DA, except for the addition of a pathway from the northern knuckle up to the open space that's in the corner. In comparing the lot sizes, I found that the smallest lot in Hardwood Estates is about 1,135 square feet, larger than the smallest lot in Dahlin Woods, and the average lot size is larger by about 450 square feet, but the median lots are essentially comparable at 0.20 or 8,712 square feet. The plat is consistent with minimum lot size, width, and depth standards and the landscaping requirements of the city of Nampa. The landscape plan reflects the requirements of the city for street trees and the landscape buffer along Roosevelt. The existing mature landscaping at the Beechwood entry will remain the same. The additional requirement of 2 trees in the front yard, 1 deciduous and 1 conifer, will be implemented with the Hardwood Estate CC&Rs. And that's something that shows up in the Dahlin Woods CC&Rs. There are 11 trees proposed in the Roosevelt buffer adjacent to the duplex lots and will provide a generous visual buffer for these duplexes. So with regard to the conditional use permit, the CUP seeks to establish a new DA that will be almost identical to the existing development agreement, with the exception of a change in legal description, allowance for the 4 duplex lots, and of course the plat that's attached would be different. The applicant believes that the duplexes, given the architectural thresholds that must be met, will be compatible and not adversely affect either the Hardwood Estates homes or the Dahlin Woods homes, and will be appropriate for the context. They will be attractive and blend with the single-family homes, as they will need to in order to preserve and protect the value of the other new lots as well as the adjacent subdivision. This is an infill development, and this limited request for duplex lots is consistent with the comprehensive plan's encouragement of some mix of density. Even with the duplex lots, the subdivision is as a whole compliant with the RS6 designation. With their location immediately adjacent to Roosevelt, having generous landscaping on two sides, the duplex component of the structures will not be easily visible. Plus, they will be designed to blend with the other homes, as shown in the sample elevations that were submitted with the application. This type of variety is common in current upscale subdivisions across the valley, with these duplexes will have to meet the same exterior standards as the single-family homes and will be designed to fit appropriate on the lots. And I'm almost done. There were some neighborhood comments that were submitted. I did want to address them. The first one was subdivision within a subdivision. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that, but the original DA did show this area being platted as we are proposing it now. Another resident was opposed to access into Donlin Woods, and as I explained to the co-president and the other members, access to Roosevelt would not be consistent with transportation standards for offset and access to a higher classification roadway. Beechwood is a public street, and the increase in traffic. The trip generation during the PM peak hour will be about 28 trips if everyone that lives in Hardwood Estates is in their vehicle during the same 60 minutes between 4 and 6 in the evening. So it is adding traffic. It's not a lot. Something will eventually need to be developed. Into the HOA. I've covered that to some extent. I only know about annexing new area into HOAs because I went through that a few years ago, and I followed the HOA president around for 2 weeks with my notary sealed while we collected notarized statements, and then we combined those with some attorney-generated amendment documentation to record. So the developer is not opposed, however, to joining the Donlin Woods HOA, with the adoption of the almost identical CCNRs. The spirit of this request is in place, and so we feel pretty confident about that. The developer is very excited to develop the site into a beautiful upscale subdivision that will blend well with Donlin Woods. And with that, I would be happy to address any questions you may have.
One or two, and the lot numbers for the 4 locations.
Yes, sir, Madam Chair. I don't have the plat with
that
me. Maybe I do.
Is that it up on the screen?
And of course, that's a little bit far for me to see. Excuse me for just a minute. It's lot 2 through 5. Lot 1 is the common lot up against
Oh.
Roosevelt.
Okay, so that's Roosevelt right above it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's not adjacent to the existing homes in Donlin Woods now?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
So you said cluster mailboxes, that's what's being required by the post office now in new development?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, my primary experience is in Middleton and Boise Meridian right now, but there seems to be a uniform effort to do cluster mailboxes. And I think the reason for that is primarily Postal Service economics, because they try to have driving routes. What we are planning on doing is putting that mailbox adjacent to the pathway that connects from that northern knuckle up to the open space. And the reason for putting it next to the knuckle is it gets the vehicles out of the main travel way. And, but again, if the post office will allow me to put in the single post on the property line 2 mailboxes, we're happy to do that.
Is that your preference?
We don't really have a preference. Whichever is, we would be happy to default to what Dahlin Woods has if the Postal Service will allow us to do so. Absolutely.
We may call you back up for other questions.
Very good. Thank you for your time.
Now, Christie.
All right. Okay, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The action required from you tonight is a recommendation of approval or denial to City Council of the modification of development agreement and the final plat for the project proposed as Hardwood Estates, and for approval of the conditional use permit for the duplexes on those 4 lots. Are you getting? Okay, hold on. The property is currently zoned RS7, and it is surrounded by city RS7 and RS6 zoned properties. In 2004, this property was annexed and zoned to BN and RS7 as part of the Dahlin Woods subdivision, and the preliminary plat for the entire project was approved then as well. In June of 2004 through October of 2007, Dahlin Woods phases 1 through 5 were approved, constructed, and recorded. In June of 2006, a CUP for a church was approved on this 6-acre parcel, but it was not constructed and has since expired. Public utilities are available to the site with an 8-inch water main in Roosevelt and Beechwood, a 12-inch PI main in Roosevelt, and a 12-inch sewer in Roosevelt as well. There is one public street identified as an extension of West Cedar Point Way. This new street has 2 ingress-egress points onto South Beechwood Drive. So, approving or denying this development agreement modification is discretionary. We don't really have code or state code that supports reasoning to deny or disapprove. It is something that you guys can include conditions into if you so choose. The ordinance number 3345 was attached for your review. This particular request is to replace only that portion of the previous development agreement that describes this 6.08 acre piece that was included in the Dahlin Woods preliminary plat but has been left undeveloped for 16 years. As per the applicant's narrative and what she spoke about tonight, the proposed plat is almost identical to the layout approved for the parcel with a minor variation, with the pathway added between lots 5 and 6 in block 1 and the duplex lots. The present application before commission proposes a change to the original agreement, including removing item 4 details from the new development agreement, as they don't necessarily apply to this portion of the development. They apply to the BN portion of the development. Provide a new legal description of the portion to be modified. Identify lots 2 through 5, block 1 as duplex lots, and that is only if you choose to approve the CUP tonight. Replace the approved concept site plan with the final plat, or with this preliminary plat proposed for Hardwood Estates. I'm sorry, it's not a preliminary plat, it's a final plat, showing the same number of lots with the pathway connection out to Roosevelt. So we've already reviewed and compared the two plats to each other. They're fairly identical with the addition of that pathway. Otherwise, everything was pretty much the same. Okay. So there are, of course, some findings of fact for the CUP to be approved. You have to identify whether or not it will be compatible with the, or adversely affect the livability or appropriate development of the abutting properties. Whether or not it is convenient and provides a functional living, working, shopping, or civic environment, and will be as attractive as the nature of the use and its location and setting warrants, and whether or not it will enhance the successful operation of the surrounding area in its basic community function. That is for the duplex lots that are being proposed. The preliminary plat, she went over the number of lots that she's proposing. Total count 23. That's one common lot, 22 buildable lots, but ultimately 26 dwelling units. So, this is a final plat request because the original preliminary plat has been vested with the first 5 phases, and the proposed layout does not vary significantly, so they were ultimately able to carry on with essentially phase 6 of the Dallin Woods project. The analysis of this plat shows that it is zoned RS7. The lot sizes, the smallest one is 8,104 square feet. The minimum required is 7,000 square feet, so they're all above that. The plat proposes an appropriate minimum lot width and depth, and the landscape plan was submitted and approved by city staff. As she went over the various public input, so I won't cover that again, Nampa Building Department stated their standard Title IV building regulations. Nampa Parks is requesting a 10-foot sidewalk along Roosevelt Avenue for a side path, and engineering submitted their standard plat and construction drawing comments as well. So should the commission choose to recommend approval of the development agreement modification and the final plat, and then approve the conditional use permit, then staff recommends the conditions as stated in the staff report. I can read through them if you'd like, and any other conditions that you see fit to add. So I have added for you, there are 3 separate decisions or recommendations that you need to make tonight. So I would suggest that you do them independently of each other. You have the option of approving or denying the development agreement modification. You have the option of approving or denying the conditional use permit. And then ultimately, you would have the option to approve or deny the final plat. So you can do any combination of those things. If you were to, let's say, for instance, deny the DA mod and the CUP, they could potentially continue forward with the final plat with single-family lots. That's just some thoughts for you to think about as you're considering what you might do here. But I have made your motions available here on separate screens, so as we go through them, I'll try to keep up with you and switch them for you.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a sign-up sheet for,
We could answer questions to Christie.
Yeah, we actually, let's see.
You're done.
Do you have access to it, Peggy?
no.
Okay.
Rodney got me online, but unless he just emailed it to me or something.
Okay, so who I have on site signed up, I have a Sharon Russin at 306 South Cedar Point Avenue, representing the HOA.
Excuse me, Christie.
Mhm.
Do we not get a chance to ask you questions before the public speaks?
If you'd like to.
I
yes.
tried to, but nobody listened to me.
Speak louder.
You have to talk into your microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
One of the letters that we have says here, rental property combined with the single-family homes decreases the overall value of the single-family homes in the subdivision. We hear that all the time. Is there any basis of fact for that statement? Has anybody ever done a survey to prove or disprove that?
So, Commissioner Kehoe, the information that I've received from realtors and people who do appraisals have stated that it actually is desired to have a mix of different types available within a housing development. And so it doesn't necessarily decrease the value.
And especially, well, the other question I was going to ask you is, I didn't see a comparison of the lot sizes between this portion of the subdivision and the older portion. And somebody else was complaining about the smaller lot sizes, but they look pretty similar to me. Are they, or are they not similar in size?
You are correct.
They are
So, because this is zoned RS7, it would have had to have
Same size,
Well, it would have
7,000
had to
square feet.
actually average.
Right.
So it would have lost its 20% on the bottom and 20% on the top, and it would have had to average out to 8,000. So it does have smaller lots than what's
And
proposed
that was my thought,
here.
but I wanted to hear it from you, and the public could hear it from you.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Go ahead. You may continue with your,
So you mentioned a name. Is that person here?
Sharon Russin?
How about online? Sharon online?
Okay, do we want to move to the next one?
Okay.
Kevin and Elizabeth Kelso, they signed up remotely. They are opposed, and I'm not sure if they would be online.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
was the first one opposed or in favor of?
Neutral.
Neutral.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I don't see them online.
Okay.
Okay, who's the next one?
Okay, next, Brenton Kelso, also signed up remotely, is opposed. Those comments, I believe for those three people, were included in your staff report. So,
Okay.
and the next one, Penelope, who is the applicant, and she spoke in favor. And then, Nathan Cleaver,
Nathan's here, yay. Okay, give us your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Nathan Cleaver, 965 West Mollywood Drive. All of our streets have a wood name in them. I am no longer the Dowling Woods president, so I cannot speak for the board. I served as president for 12 years. I resigned 9 months ago. I too appreciate your service for the city of Nampa. I'm on the city of Nampa's appraisal board for the sewer and water utilities. So I do appreciate what you're doing here. The question, Commissioner, was, does the adjacent phase match this phase? That is not correct. For example, if we're able to pull up that site plan again, a corner lot is 8,000 square feet, and directly across is the proposed, it's 8,500 square feet, and directly across the street is the proposed duplex lot at 87 or 9,000 square feet, but it's a duplex. The home looks like this. This is what the home looks like that sits directly across the street. And if you're able to pull up that, just immediately west of Beechwood as you enter, there's lots that are 12,000 square feet adjacent or across the street from this lot. I would make a motion that you deny the CUP, and the other question is, well, why? Well, as the HOA president, former HOA president, I'm now, anyway, rental lots, especially when you're dealing with a small lot that doesn't have any parking, tend to cause a lot of complaints from all the neighbors. There's very few rental properties within the subdivision. All the problems that we had were always associated with rental lots. Speeding through, broke down cars on the driveway, the cars out on the street constantly parked. If you drive through it at night, there's very few lots that have cars parked on the street, very few that are in the driveways. A lot of the homes, maybe not a lot, maybe 50% or thereabout, have 3-car garages. These size of lots are the smaller of the lots that are immediately adjacent to it. I do not believe that the duplex lots are compatible with the lots that are these homes, and these are some of the nicest homes in the entire subdivision. And Dennis Baker, when he built this subdivision, he purposely put the nicer homes on this side, and the smaller lots you actually see are on the very south end of the subdivision, where they're adjacent to the Corey Barton subdivision, to provide that upsize from the Corey Barton, but it wasn't as big as the rest of the lots. And so, once again, I ask you to deny the CUP and the associated modifications to the rules or the development agreement for them.
I ask a question. So what we've seen as far as a proposal of what these duplexes will look like do have 2-car garages, off-street parking, driveway. Seems to me it'd be kind of the same as those other houses in Dowling Woods that have 2-car garages. They have 3 cars, one of them's gonna be parking on the street.
My experience as the HOA president was the rentals tend to have more cars, and they were parked on the street, even with the greater frontage that our homes have. And now we're talking the same size lot, but with 2 homes on it. So the chances are more, and it's right at the entrance and visible as you exit the subdivision. And there was one comment or question about the location of it, make sure it wasn't visible. Lot 2 is separated by Lot 1, which is a common lot, which is probably 10 feet wide. So it's Beechwood with a 10-foot common wide, and then the lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's everybody on this list.
Okay, is there anybody here who would like to testify on this item? Okay, nobody.
Okay.
Alrighty, do we have some questions for
You want to call the applicant back,
the
please?
applicant? You want to come on back up?
Thank you, ma'am. Do you need me to restate my name and address?
Just, yes, please.
Penelope Constantikis, Post Office Box 405, Boise, Idaho 83701. I always appreciate when people go to the trouble to come to a hearing because it's an inconvenience. I did and I'm happy to give this to the commission. I actually took the plat for Dahlin Woods and I just randomly selected 50 lots to see what was going on. And then I crunched some numbers on my handy dandy Excel spreadsheet. What I discovered was the smallest lots in Dahlin Woods are at 0.16 acres, which is 6,969 square feet. The largest lot is 0.29 acres, which is 12,632. There's only one of those. There are, the median lot is the 0.20 acre. The 0.24, 0.25, 0.27, and 0.29 acre lots, there's only one of each of those. There's 5 lots at 16.16, 7 at 0.17, 8 at 0.18. There's 7 lots at 0.19. There's 10 lots at 0.20. So I went through and actually crunched the numbers. The average lot size in Dahlin Woods is 8,540 square feet. The median is 8,426. And Hardwood Estates, the average lot size is 8,991, which is that 450 square feet I mentioned earlier. And the median lot size is 8,803 square feet. So our lots don't start, our smallest lot is 0.19 acres. The smallest lot in Dahlin Woods is 0.16 acres. There's nothing wrong with that. But I did want to clarify that. So the common lot that's adjacent to Roosevelt, I don't believe is 10 feet wide. I think it's quite a bit wider than that. And I apologize, I don't have a copy of the plat, but it's at least 15, if not 20, or maybe even 25 feet wide. I think it's pretty roomy. The other comments were that, so the lots do match. I would argue that they do match because they're identical to the lots that were proposed originally back in 2005. We couldn't get our hands on the original preliminary plat as line work, so it was scanned in and converted to an AutoCAD file. So the lots are identical except for the 2 that are right next to the new pathway that goes up to the open space. And like I said, there's only one lot that exceeds, there's only one 12,000 plus square foot lot. The gentleman that spoke before me is correct. Some of the larger lots in the subdivision are immediately adjacent to Beechwood. But you have to look at the subdivision as a whole, I think, not just isolated lots to draw conclusions. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about it. I think we intentionally wanted to bring something in that was identical. The developer, as the owner of all these lots, has got no reason to put in a duplex that looks like something you'd see in a multifamily development. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but these are going to be custom buildings designed with the intention of minimizing the second presence, the second residence, and to make them as compatible as possible. I think they're quite attractive personally, but that's my thing. And so,
If I could speak to that just for a second. So I don't think the question is are the difference in the lot sizes, because we know they're basically the same and they haven't changed. I think the concern that the gentleman brought up before was on 4 of those lots that are the same size used to be slated for a church. Now they've been divvied up to put 2 homes essentially on 1 lot rather than 1 home on 1 lot. And I think that's more the concern, and the traffic and maybe extra cars that would bring. Can you speak?
of course, Madam Chair, Commissioner, I think the church was going to occupy the entire parcel, the entire 4-acre parcel. And I'm sorry, it's always a challenge to track everything that everybody says to you in a hearing. So you were asking about the church, and then what was the rest
Well,
of it?
what was going to be there is really not of any importance at this point. It's now what is planned on being there. And I think the concern was now there's going to be essentially 2 homes on 1 lot rather than 1 home on 1 lot in those 4 duplex lots. I think that's the concern, if I understand right. And that would bring additional cars. If you put, now basically you have 4 cars for a home, because you got 2 living units on that 1 lot rather than maybe 2. And I'm just throwing numbers out there. But
Madam Chair, Commissioner, it will add 4 vehicle trips to the overall trip generation.
Again, I think the concern he's talking about is the vehicles parked on the street that can't fit on the driveway, because now you have 2 living units on 1 lot. I think that's the concern there.
I understand. There'll be 2 two-car garages, or maybe 3, I don't know. The homes, the other single-family homes, I think most of them are going to have 3-car garages or 2-car garage and an RV parking space. A 2-car garage with a duplex is no different than a single-family home with a 2-car garage. So I understand your question. I just I think these are intended to be upscale. So I'm not sure that there'll be a proliferation of vehicles parking on the street, but my crystal ball isn't working right now. I can't find the right size batteries for it. So I think they'll be fine, but I trust your judgment, so that's fine.
I appreciate you addressing that.
Sure.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I have one. So, we've been talking about the high-quality nature of the Dallinwood subdivision, and this parcel that was going to be a church that was originally platted and then given by the developer, and now it's back to a plat. I guess, what's the thought process to putting duplexes into this type of a development?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, some of it has to do with just providing a variety of housing types. It's kind of a nod to the city of Nampa because we have a housing shortage across the valley. And the housing shortage isn't just manifested in hourly workers. There are people, I'm a renter. I don't own a home. To be honest with you, I don't know that I queried them specifically about it. I know that it's a current trend in housing type, and that they're desirable for folks like me, professionals, or retired people who might maybe want to supplement their income. The other thing that's important to understand is that they're not going to be identical units. It's almost like a mother-in-law unit. There'll be a larger primary residence and a smaller secondary residence is what the duplexes are intended to be designed like. I don't know that there'll be a huge difference in square footage, but they'll be custom designed for the lots. Hopefully, the idea is to separate the garages and the driveways so that they're not immediately adjacent to each other, which reduces the visual massing, it reduces the concrete, it separates them out, makes it more attractive. Side loading garages is always a nice way to do things, and a 9,000 square foot lot's pretty big. So we thought that those 9,000 square foot lots would be suitable. They're up against the street, which are traditionally the least attractive lots in a subdivision, especially when they're next to an arterial roadway. So I hope I've answered your question. I've done my best.
Yeah, that helps. I was just curious to why the developer didn't go single family everywhere, so you answered the question.
Very good. Thank you.
One more quick follow-up. Was there any thought, do you know, and you probably don't know the answer to this, was there any thought of putting those duplex lots in the interior of that street rather than on the end?
It's a great question, Madam Chair, Commissioner. The idea was to put the duplexes to put them together. And the 4 9,000 square foot lots or plus are all clustered together up in that corner. And it becomes a chicken or egg thing. In order to do that, to put them in the interior, we would have had to have redesigned the subdivision. And what we wanted to do was bring forward what was originally approved, which is the plat that's before you now. And originally it had those roomy lots up against the street. So that's what we did, was keep the subdivision plat design as it was originally intended, and then use the larger lots in the least desirable part of the subdivision for the duplexes. They're also shielded. There's quite a bit of very mature conifer along Beechwood that is as deep as those lots are. So unless you're looking over your shoulders, you drive in, you won't even really see them. So I hope that answers
Yes,
your
it
question.
does. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions for staff?
Second.
Into the microphone.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll still second.
Okay, motion by Steve, second by Brett to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't know if anybody online is communicating, so.
Yeah, I said aye. This is Tom.
I said aye too, it's Adam.
Oh, I hear Adam. Okay. All right.
Hi, this is Michelle.
Oh, Michelle.
We have everybody.
Yay. Okay, public hearing is closed. What do you guys want to do? Christie has all the motions of any variety you could ever want. Don't all talk at once, guys.
People at home also have that same on their screens?
That's what's showing on Teams.
So they can participate from home as well, right?
Everyone's afraid to talk into these new microphones.
Well, I can read as well as the next person, I guess, and since nobody else will step forward, I'd like to make the recommendation to approve of the modification of development agreement originally recorded for Dallinwood subdivision, ordinance number 3345, modifying the site plan and the content to allow single-family homes and 4 duplex lots without the inclusion of the original proposed church building. Conditional use permits to allow 4 duplexes or 8 units in an RS7, single-family, 7,000 square foot zoning, and can't read what it says on the other side there. Does that say district something?
RS7 zoning district.
Or what does it right past that?
Zoning
lots.
district on lots 2, 3, 4, and 5.
couldn't tell you what that was. Okay, and, block 1 and the proposed Harwood Estate subdivision with all conditions and conditions of staff, plus any additional that we may have, which I haven't heard anybody say any, so I guess we're good.
Do we have a second?
I have a second.
Michelle seconds. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Steve?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
You may have to roll call.
Yeah. roll call.
Well, it sounded like Steve and Michelle were for it and everybody else was against, correct?
Oh, I
Correct.
vote for it.
You voted for it too? Ron did. So 3, 4, and,
But you need to know which ones.
let's do it.
okay, we'll do roll call vote. Steve,
Aye.
Brett, Ron,
Aye.
Jeff,
Nay.
Tom,
No.
Adam,
Nay.
Michelle.
Aye.
4-3.
4 to 3.
4 to 3. Okay.
So next is the CUP then. If you didn't approve the DA, then the CUP technically can't be approved then either.
Christie, it's hard to hear you now.
Yeah, I can't.
Since you denied the DA, then the CUP can't technically be approved either.
Okay, but we can, now the next thing is the plat.
Well, no, you have
We
to
need action on
actually
the
move
CUP.
to deny the CUP.
We have to, didn't, go ahead and vote on the CUP anyways, okay. All right. You want to do it again, Steve? Somebody needs to make the motion to,
I'll make the motion that we approve the CUP for the 4 duplexes.
we denied it.
I know, you can vote, you can.
Oh,
you can
okay.
deny it, you can
I
say
see
no.
what, good, okay. So we have a second to Ron's motion.
Second.
Okay, Ron has motioned, Steve has seconded to approve the CUP. All those in favor, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Steve? Brett?
Nay.
Ron?
Aye.
Jeff?
Nay.
Tom?
Nay.
Adam?
Nay.
Michelle?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
And then do we do the plat or?
Okay, so now you can discuss approving or denying the final plat. So based on what has been proposed, it is technically the same layout with the same lots. The only difference is the pathway, and that is not a significant enough change to cause it to have to go back through the preliminary plat process. So you do have the option of approving the final plat as it is proposed now without the duplex lots.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we recommend for approval the subdivision plat final for Hardwood Estates subdivision without the 4 duplex lots as it's been proposed with all conditions.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Brett, second by Jeff to approve the plat minus the duplexes. All those, well, gonna go with roll call vote again. Steve? Steve? Brett?
Aye.
Ron? Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Did she talk? Michelle, were you yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay. The ayes have it. Okay. So that will all go on to city council for them to either accept or decline our recommendations. So anybody who disagrees with what we did today, make sure and go to city council and you'll get a chance to be heard there.
Madam Chair, because there are criteria for denying the CUP, could you guys outline what your reasons were for that? I can go back to that criteria if you like.
Sure, that'd be great.
Make the
I made the motion to approve it.
You made the motion to approve.
So I just need some clarification on why you feel like it was appropriate to deny it.
Okay, you know voters need to,
Well, it was denied because the DA was denied.
Well, right, but is there,
Um,
is there any of this criteria that fits into that denial reasoning?
Oh, well, I'll give you the reason I voted no for the CUP was the livability and the appropriate, I mean, just the compatibility with the surrounding homes.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing.
Particular area with that neighborhood and those homes. I didn't think that duplexes were appropriate, especially right there at the entrance to Dallin Woods.
Any other comments, or does everyone that voted no agree
That's-
with that?
That's the reason, yeah.
I would agree.
That's my main reason.
okay, sounds like everybody is in agreement with that.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay.
Okay, on to public hearing item number 2. Do we have the applicant here? Do we have the applicant online? We have no applicant?
It
Oh,
says
no,
with-
this
Oh.
one was, this one was continued, I'm sorry.
Oh,
This is the one that's continued.
okay, so we have to open a public hearing and continue it, is that correct?
That is correct.
So do we hear the staff report or no?
Nope, I did not have enough information to be able to analyze the plat, so we did not do staff report.
Okay, so public hearing is open for item number 2, and we need a motion to continue.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to continue the,
Second. Oh, sorry.
item number 2 on the agenda
To February 23rd.
to February 23rd, 2021.
Okay, motion by Ron, seconded by Jeff to continue public hearing item number 2 to February 23rd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay. That one, and then number 3 is withdrawn. So we're on to public hearing item number 4. Do we have the applicant? Yes.
Madam Chair,
Hi.
Commissioners, my name is Jared Walgren. I'm with JGT Architecture, 1212 12th Avenue South in Nampa. And I am representing Rennie Wiley, the owner and developer of a proposed multifamily development off of Sand Hill Drive near the Karcher Marketplace area. It's a proposed 60-unit apartment complex, and we are seeking conditional use in a BC zone. The development is 60 units composed of 3 buildings. We've designed it to have the required parking as required in the ordinance. The site plan lays out where we have 3 buildings that are separated by parking areas. We tried to divide up the parking area so it wasn't a vast sea of parking. The developer is going to provide 1 carport stall for each unit, along with other amenities such as a tot lot playground, some patio areas with barbecues, and a dog run. We feel that it's compatible with the area in size and scale. It's similar in nature to the Quail Point apartments that were recently constructed nearby. To the south, there's a 3-story hotel, be similar size and scale to this building. And we feel it really complements the area due to the commercial development and employment centers nearby. It'll create a good mixed use environment for walkability, and feel that it really complements the surroundings. And we ask for your consideration for the conditional use. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
We'll probably save our questions for after public testimony.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so is Rodney doing this? Parker's gonna do.
Yep.
All right.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the requested action tonight is for a conditional use permit for a multifamily dwelling in a BC zoning district at 9926 West Sand Hill Drive for James Wiley. The lot is in the future land use map designated as commercial. It is in a BC zone. The surrounding land uses are all BC. To the north, restaurants. To the south is Fairfield Inn. To the east, there's a single-family dwelling and vacant land. To the west is more commercial and vacant land. Some history on the property. It was annexed in 2013 with a development agreement. And those conditions are on this slide there. They're kind of hard to read, but essentially they're development centered. So the developer would be responsible to extend public utilities, that they would be expected to designate easements to make right-of-way improvements and designate right-of-way. The lot is 0.17 acres, just over 7,000 square feet. Utilities are available in Sand Hill Drive. The sewer is stubbed into the property to the east, which is owned by the same person. They would. We can go over the comments from engineering here in a second. The concept presented by the applicant. The applicable regulations in this application are in 10.3.2, our schedule of uses require a conditional use permit for multiple family in the BC zone. 10.25.4 sets forth the criteria of approval, requiring that the use be compatible with and not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood. This is the correspondence from engineering, and it's essentially duplicating the development agreement that's in place, that they designate 28 feet of right-of-way. The sewer is available, as I mentioned, and the elevation should be sufficient to provide gravity service from that side. Nampa Building Department commented with the normal Title IV building regulations, and no comment from the Highway District. Staff findings are comprehensive plan discusses smart growth or a compact city, and smart growth principles concentrate growth in compact, walkable urban centers to avoid sprawl, and advocates for compact, walkable, bicycle-friendly land uses, complete streets and mixed-use development with a range of housing choices. This development is in a commercial area. It's surrounded by shopping, restaurants, places of work. Many of the local improvements have been made to promote walkability, to get residents to those shopping areas. And as further development occurs, that walkability will continue to improve. There are industrial uses to the south that had an impact on the decision of the recent Quail Point Apartments under the same applicant. Those apartments were approved. They were adjacent to industrial uses. Those industrial uses should have a less of an impact on this development, being that it's further away. The development will be subject to the design review standards and approval by design review committee. The staff findings are those found in your staff report. Sorry, I missed one. So the applicant's request for the CUP the commission will need to determine whether the proposed development will fit in location, size, and design, and won't affect the livability or appropriate development of the abutting properties in the neighborhood. The recommended findings. Conditions are those listed in the staff report, and those laid out by engineering, essentially duplicating, again, those in the development agreement, and any additional conditions that you wish to apply in the situation. I will stand for any questions.
Parker, the apartment units that were built down the street, how many units were in there? Do you remember? Do you know?
The applicant did the same project, so he has that information.
72. And how many vehicles per unit do they figure for an apartment complex? Do you know? 1.5?
By code, we require two per unit.
So we have 140 down there and 120 in this one. And have you guys started renting out those units?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the traffic on that intersection by Karcher and the interstate it's deadlock on the weekends. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you can't get through there. And we're going to add another couple of hundred cars. Engineering, is any improvements coming up, Daniel?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kehoe, the area around Treasure Valley Marketplace, we have planning dollars assigned to that area. We don't have any construction dollars at this point.
What are we talking about?
Recently, the state did improvements right there at the interchange that has helped improve the traffic at that area. Likely, we would be probably at least a couple years out for any construction. I would say 2 to 5 years out for any construction potentially.
Road construction.
Yeah.
Road improvement construction.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Daniel, while you're standing there, what are we going to do with, or what are they going to do with Sand Hill Drive? Is that whole thing going to be widened all the way through there?
So Sand Hill Drive, was one of the things we, my reviewer and I had discussed, that they will need to do their frontage along Sand Hill Drive there to complete out that section of the roadway. So yes.
So there's the little house that's next door. And I know the people that live there park in front of that house and sometimes across the street.
That would be something you would want to talk to the applicant. I don't know whether that house is scheduled to remain or be taken down with this project.
But they only have to improve Sand Hill just on the frontage, right?
Yes,
The
so,
property.
am I remembering correctly, Sand Hill's, the southern portion of Sand Hill is all complete, correct? Yes. So, so yes, they would be improving their portion along that northern portion of the roadway.
But it doesn't go all the way
it does connect all the way out to the old Midland, which is now Merchant, as well as the Karcher bypass.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Thank you. Okay, let's open public hearing. Do you have a sign-up sheet, Parker?
Yes. Just the owner and the applicant are signed up.
Okay, is there anybody present that would like to testify on this? Come up and give us your name and address for the record.
My name's James Wiley, 1676 North Clarendon Way, Eagle, Idaho, 83616. Madam Chairman, members of the commission. We feel, and I can try and address some of your concerns. One thing I'd like to point out right off the bat is I think it's 2.52 acres, not 0.7 that you had shown on your original sheet. We feel that this project is a good transition from the high impact residential or retail to a residential, which will allow for people to be able pedestrian activity to the retail and shopping. It's not a high profile retail type location because it's set back off of Karcher bypass. So we felt it was more suitable for multifamily than anything else we could come up with. The property's been vacant for a long time. We haven't had a lot of interest, and so this was our next idea. One thing I would like to say on engineering's part is that there's a 28-foot right-of-way dedication. I just wanted to say that's from the center of the street, not necessarily from the property line. And I confirmed that with Daniel earlier today. For traffic, multifamily has less of an impact in almost every location than retail. So if you're worrying about adding more traffic into that area, retail would have a whole lot more traffic impact than multifamily. And then regarding Sandhill, we built the hotel years ago, and then Batteries Plus came in, so that is all curb, gutter, and sidewalk. And then we have carried on the south side the roadway improvements all the way through to the Karcher bypass. The reason we did not carry the roadway improvements through on the north side is that we weren't exactly sure what was going to go in there, and I did not want to put curb, gutter, and sidewalk and build a street and then have to tear it out. We own all the property to the east where that pasture land and then the small house is, and we intend to do something, but we don't have a definitive plan, and I did not want to put improvements in that were then going to be torn out. I know that the city had an LID that was going in that area for traffic or for roadway improvements, and I did not want to sign up for it for that specific reason. Is we just did not want to put something in that was then not going to be useful to us.
Is that house going to be torn down?
Not at this time.
Okay.
At some point it will.
Okay.
So there's a little white house that will be torn down, and then which is on this site, and then the small red house to the east, we were going to leave for now.
Okay.
And then to address that, we could have them try and park away from that street. I would actually kind of like to develop that section as soon as we have a plan. Because we paid for the intersection, dedicated roadway for that, and then did all the improvements on the south side. So we've already spent quite a lot of money on infrastructure out there. I'll stand for any questions.
Oh, I think we're good.
Answered mine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that wants to speak on this item? Okay. Anybody have any questions for staff?
Madam Chair, I will correct that it is 2.52 acres, not what I had on the slide.
Okay.
And the applicant will get to respond.
Sorry, what was
The
that?
applicant will be next, if I'm correct.
If he has, if, we don't have any other questions, but if you have anything else you want to say.
I think we covered it.
Yeah. I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
I think this is a great location for the project that's being proposed, planned, and it doesn't hurt that it's pretty dang close to Chick-fil-A over there too, so. So I will make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for dwelling, multiple family in a BC zone at 9926 West Sand Hill Drive for 2.52 acres. For 3 apartment buildings with 20 dwelling units, for a total of 6 units in the Wiley Apartments for James Wiley with all conditions of staff.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Ron. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. Thank you. Okay, public hearing item number 5, annexation and zoning on 11043 Moss Lane. Do we have an applicant here? No applicant?
Yes, they said they would be here, so.
So what should we do?
No applicant?
No applicant, it's a zoning and
I have a lot of questions.
conditional use permit, and this is a lot of stuff that we need the applicant for, so.
Yeah, Madam Chair, they indicated that they would be here tonight, so.
And you haven't seen them, they left or anything? I'd say anybody leave.
Yeah.
And we're sure they're not online?
The applicant is Dwayne Steve Lee.
Let's see. Don't see anybody by that name online. So do we continue it, table it, open it, just skip it? What's the procedure?
What do you recommend, Rodney?
Madam Chair, I would recommend you open the public hearing, then just continue it.
To the February 23rd meeting?
Correct.
Okay. All right, we'll open a public hearing on action item number 5. I need a motion to continue it to the 23rd of February.
I'll make the motion, we continue item number 5 to February 23rd, 2021.
Okay, motion by Ron,
Second.
seconded by Jeff to continue item number 5 to February 23rd. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, public hearing 5 is going to February. Okay, number 6, conditional use permit for a treatment center. Do we have the applicant?
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Tab Carmen. Address is 918 West Idaho Street, Boise, Idaho, 83702. I'm representing Braintree Properties as the lead designer on the project and 12th Avenue Ventures. The CUP was brought up mainly based on the function of the tenant. And so with that, I'd actually like to bring up two representatives of Recovery for Life and have them speak to it. They'll be able to answer the questions. Jacob is an architect here as well. If there's questions regarding design of the building or anything like that, we can step back up and answer those questions.
Okay.
So we have Melanie Simon and Amy Jepson with Recovery for Life.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair and the Planning Committee, thank you for this time to be able to talk with you. I did submit a slide presentation. Oh, there we go.
Can you give us your name and address for the record, please?
I'm so nervous, I'm sorry. Amy Jepson, 2915 South Rhine River Avenue, Eagle, Idaho, 83616.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. So Recovery for Life is a behavioral health center. We currently have two other locations. One is in Boise, Idaho. One is in Caldwell, Idaho. And just to kind of give you a little idea about our mission and what we do. So we are not like a medication-assisted therapy only center. We're not a residential center. We're actually an outpatient treatment center. And so part of our mission is working with folks who have mental health and substance abuse disorders and trying to help them either get clean and sober or on the correct medication to deal with mental health disorders and different things like that. If you could go to the next slide. I did include in your package just kind of a copy of our mission statement. And our mission is really to create hope, empower lives, and inspire communities. One of the things that I think is a little different about our model is we're really community-centered. And we feel like one of the things I can tell you, I'm an LCSW, a therapist, have been practicing for 20 plus years, embarrassing but true. And one of the things I can tell you is that when people, in order to help people get clean and sober or their mental health back on track, it does not work just to have them come to a center, do some programming. They really have to get involved in the community. And so we really pride ourselves on some of the community programs that we do, and I'll talk about those in just a moment. If you could go to the next slide. Just to give you a better idea, too, of some of the services that we offer, we do adolescent and adult treatment programs for, like I said, both mental health and substance abuse. We're moving into what's called partial day hospitalization, and what that means is someone is at the facility for up to 6 hours per day, 5 days a week. So we're not there overnight, anything like that. We do intensive outpatient therapy, and what qualifies for intensive outpatient therapy would be anything that's 9 hours or above. Maxing out, I think it's at 15 hours would be intensive outpatient. And then outpatient therapy is 8 hours and below. We do medication-assisted treatment, although we are not a methadone clinic. So we only prescribe Suboxone.
Excuse me.
Yes.
1 second here. I've got a nagging question. Do you take referrals from the Department of Corrections?
We do.
Okay. To err on the side of caution, I need to recuse myself from this just because I work for the Department of Corrections, so I'm just going to recuse myself.
I recognized you. So I didn't know if you would recognize me, but yes, thank you. Okay, so we do some medication-assisted therapy, which is Suboxone. We do medication management for people that have mental health issues. And our Suboxone, people don't come in for a daily prescription. We're not keeping Suboxone on site. They get like a 3-day prescription in the beginning. They start on it, then they come back in 3 days, visit with the doctor. They get another prescription. If they need daily med management, that's something that we would refer out to someone else because that's not something that we do on site. We also provide case management, linking people into community resources, peer supports, recovery coaching. We provide individual groups and family therapy. Currently, we're practicing with telehealth services due to COVID. But I don't know if you guys read the super good news, which is that they're to 1.7 on the list now, and so we are up for vaccine. And as soon as we can get our staff vaccinated, we plan to start bringing clients back into the buildings. So let's go to the next slide, if you will. So we really pride ourselves on community partnerships, and I'm not sure why my other piece didn't show up there. But, well. We really pride ourselves on community partnerships. So let me tell you about some programs that we're already doing in Nampa. So in Nampa, we were the first to come together in the state in Boise, where we worked with the Boise Police Department to create the LEAD program, which is Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. So if you know anything about Idaho and some of our laws, we sort of kind of arrested people, and then we were rearresting them. And so the state came together and we put together the pilot. And then we just started this program in Nampa about 9 months ago with the Nampa PD. But because we don't have a center currently located in Nampa, we're having to take those people into our Caldwell offices, or they're having to find transportation to our Boise office. And so what happens in that program is that people that get caught with an offense of some type of an opiate or drug offense, they have the option, and the state pays for up to a year of treatment for them to go to treatment. And if they do well in treatment, the charges are never filed, and it's sort of like got your life back together. And we've had some really phenomenal successes. And so I did get a letter from Officer Hoxima, but he was actually really busy today, and so I wasn't able to get it in time into your packets, but I have submitted that, so you can see a copy of that. The other thing is the city, or this Nampa School District, right across the street from us is the high school, and we have had some great contact with them. I submitted a letter from them. They're really excited about this location because they can have students come straight from the high school, walk directly across the street, and come straight into the treatment programs that they need after school. And so I did submit that letter from them. We also work with your mental health court in Nampa and also in Caldwell. Currently, those clients are having to be seen in Caldwell because we do not have a location in Nampa. And then we also have other community partners that we work really closely with. And then just my last slide here. So as you can see on this slide, this is where our proposed site is in red. You can see right across the street is the Nampa High School. Within 1 mile of us is the alternative high school. Within 2 miles of us is Pathways, which is also a lesser alternative high school. And then you can also see Acacia Wellness Center that's across the street from us. And so Acacia Wellness Center is provides a lot of similar services that we do, including substance abuse treatment. But they do not treat adolescents currently. And with the pandemic, we have seen just such an influx of people with mental health issues and substance abuse problems. It is never in my career have I seen so many people needing help. And there's all of our systems are full. And so we really believe that this will open up treatment avenues and options for people that can't currently get those. There were a couple concerns that came up. One of the concerns that I heard from some folks that live in the surrounding areas are about sex offenders. So in the building that we're sharing, it is a pediatric dentist, and we will not be treating any sex offenders or have any sex offenders in this building. That's just not good practice. There's also a church that's fairly closely located to us that has a daycare program and different things like that. So we will not be treating sex offenders at this location. One question that came up about telehealth, and again, we will continue to offer telehealth to those people that's appropriate, but we really have seen that people that are starting into recovery or really struggling with mental health, they also need that human contact. And so it'll take us probably 3 to 6 months to do a build out. And by then we feel like the vaccination will be rolled out enough that we'll be able to start treating clients in person. And so with that, I would stand for any questions or anything that you would like to.
So I have a question. So you have somebody who, say bipolar, that comes into the facility and they're trying to decide, if they need to be hospitalized. Do you help them get to that point where they're not set in an emergency room for 12, 15 hours trying to get in and facilitate that faster, or how does?
Yes. So the only way that they can be committed in the state of Idaho is through the ACT team, through Health and Welfare and Mobile Crisis. And we have an excellent relationship in Caldwell, in Boise, and here with the ACT team and Mobile Crisis to get them facilitated. In the past, when we have had that happen, we actually go with them and sit with them until they can get committed and be safe, because we want to make sure that they're safe. So, yes.
Because the system right now kind of stinks.
Boots them out. When they get there, they get booted out. And a lot of times they get booted back to us. And so about 5 years ago, we realized that the only way really to get them admitted was to actually go and sit there and help other people understand the seriousness of the situation. Okay. Here we have a great relationship with West Valley. So most often we take them directly to West Valley because they're usually willing to admit them and take care of what needs to happen there.
Okay. But if they don't need hospitalization, they have 6 hours a day
They can have up to 6 hours a day, so depending on where their assessment says they fit, they can have up to 6 hours a day, up to 9 hours a week. So we currently work with some mental health court clients, so they're there about 9 hours per week. But what's really nice about that is we do medication management on site, and we have these staffing, so if they're kind of having some problems with their medication, we have the ability to address that in the here and now instead of having to call another facility and ask to speak to the doctor and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions?
What's your ratio to patients and staff during the day when these people might be there for that many hours?
Sure. So in our partial hospitalization program, we have 4 staff, and we have, let's see, it's a maximum, I believe, of 12 clients. So we have 4 staff. So that's our highest level. So the partial hospitalization are people that are really in the middle of detoxing or kind of really in the middle of a mental health crisis. So you've got,
1-to-1?
it's 2 to 1. Oh, no, wait, I gotta do my math. I'm a social worker, sorry. So you got 12 clients per 4 staff. So,
And that's adequate to protect everybody if they go berserk or something?
yes, yes. And again, we have a really good relationship with the Napa Police Department. And again, have the ability, and we also have one with BPD, and have had.
The school resource officer right across the street, would you be able to get him to come over and help you if needed be?
They're pretty limited in what they can do. If it's an adolescent issue, they can come right away. They can come and take care of that right away, but they're pretty limited. They're really only over the adolescent issues. But like I said, we have a great relationship with Nampa PD, and they've been really great to help us in any type of situations.
Who's your contact person there?
Officer Joseph, excuse me, I can never pronounce his name correctly. Sorry, what? Hoaxema. And I'm trying to think of the name of we have several different people that we work there, but he's our main point of contact. And like I said, we text him, call him. He's been great to work with. And then for our intensive outpatient, this facility will have 5 full-time therapists, probably 5 full-time case managers, 5 or 6 peer support specialists and recovery coaches. And then also the admin staff, the admission team staff. And the majority of our programming actually happens in the afternoon and the evening, not during the day. So most people in the general programming come in the evening. So, and that's another thing that made us feel comfortable about the location is the dentist's office closes at 5, and our groups start at 6. So we do have some groups during the day, but they're much smaller. The majority of our clients come in the evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We may have other questions, but I think we got it just for now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Madam Chair, Commissioners, Doug Critchfield. So the requested action before you this evening is a conditional use permit for a treatment center, alcoholism and chemical dependency in a community business zoning district at 914 12th Avenue for the Recovery for Life Treatment Center. The purpose was stated by the applicant this evening. This is a street view of the property from 12th Avenue Road. The site has gone through, it was Zone BC in an ordinance in 3346. I could not find a date on that ordinance. It appears to be around somewhere around 2004. In January of 2009, the parcel was included in the NNU specific area plan via comprehensive plan amendment. In April of 2011, the site was approved with the CUP for a church facility, and then in June of 2018, the Design Review Committee approved the orthodontics and medical office building design that sits there currently. In the comprehensive plan, this is in a high-density residential land use setting. The surrounding land use settings are high-density residential with exception to the east, or to the west, which is commercial. The zoning in the area is, the current zoning on that space is a community business. To the north and to the south and east is limited multifamily residential. There is some single-family residential to the north side. Zion Lutheran School sits to the south, and to the east are apartment buildings. And to the west is community business with a Taco Bell, and then on further is Nampa High School across 12th Avenue Road. excuse me, the sewer, domestic water, and pressurized irrigation exist on the property. The city services are provided to this property. The site is largely in a commercial residential area, as was mentioned before, with apartments and single-family residential to the north and to the southeast of the property and to the east. The business location is an existing commercial building with orthodontic and dentist offices. And then, as was mentioned, the schools are to the west and to the south. Transportation from the site, access is from 12th Avenue Road to the west and East Colorado Avenue to the south. The road classifications, 12th Avenue Road is a principal arterial and East Colorado is a local road. And this is a graphic of the location of the utilities that feed the site. The applicable regulations in this case, as attached to your staff report, are the permitted and conditional uses that are allowed in the community business zoning district. The treatment center for alcoholism and chemical dependency in a BC zone requires a conditional use permit. In Title 10 of Chapter 25, as has been mentioned in other conditional use permits, the commission is charged with determining if the treatment center is compatible with the types of uses permitted in the surrounding areas and for stipulating the conditions associated with it. We did receive some correspondence on this. The building department gave us standard correspondence about complying with Title IV and building regulations. The email correspondence we received is in your staff report from Pastor Ross Shaver from Zion Lutheran School. And his comments are mentioned in your staff report. We also received an email that was shared with you after the staff report, which was sent to you. Todd Vaylor from the school board and vice president of Zion Lutheran School indicated similar concerns as Pastor Ross Shaver did. And there were several questions that were included in that letter. Some of these were answered tonight already by the applicant. And if there are any other questions, I'd be glad to go back to this slide if there's any that you'd like to ask. The findings for this application are stated in your staff report. And it's a reiteration of, again, some of the things that have been presented this evening. It is on finding number 3, the area can reasonably be assumed to be available for the orderly development of the city within the city limits. In the conditions of approval, again, as stated in your staff reports, reiterates that was requirements from the building department and the standard requirements in that any work that's done on the site shall comply with all of the city codes, policies, and standards, and then any other conditions that the commission wishes to impose this evening. And so with that, the request in action is stated on the board, and if there's any questions, I'd be glad to take them. Thank you.
Doug, on the first page under purpose, would you explain that paragraph, please?
Sure. So I'll move back to that slide. So the purpose, this was a letter of intent that was issued by the applicant. The applicant stated that currently telehealth will be offered with the COVID situation, but there was some concern that if patients were ever to be seen on the site, they wouldn't have any way of knowing about their dependency status. And so, and then as was iterated tonight, after the COVID crisis is over, patients will be seen on the campus. So this obtaining of a conditional use permit is a precautionary before proceeding, but it's also a requirement of code. So.
I don't understand what that means by the dependency status. What is that exactly saying? That they don't know whether they're dependent on alcohol or drugs, or what? Explain that better to me.
Yeah, Commissioner Selman and Kehoe and Chair Selman and Commissioner Kehoe, sorry. I would ask the applicant to answer that question for us.
Okay.
sounds like a red flag to me. I mean, that's why I wanted to get a better
Sure.
explanation.
I think it's a really good question, actually. I think it's more poor wording, but let me see if I can explain it, Madam Chair and Commission. So what that means is that, so if we were just doing plain mental health, putting out a mental health shingle, we would not need to have a conditional use permit. Where we treat mental health and substance dependency, so let's say someone comes into our office, until they have an assessment that's done, we don't know the exact nature of why they're coming in. So rather than having people coming on site and then we say, we do an assessment and they're coming in for substance abuse problems and we're like, oh man, we got to get a CUP, we can't see you here, we can only see mental health. Where we know we treat both, we felt it would be more appropriate to seek the CUP for the substance abuse, and we don't need it for the mental health side.
You explained it.
Yeah, it was just poorly worded on our part, so I apologize.
Right.
But that's what that means.
Right.
Thank you. Any other questions for Doug? Okay, let's move on to public hearing. Do we have a sign-up sheet? On the screen. So do we know if they want to speak? Okay, so Tab Carmen. He's already taught. And then we have Amy Jepson and Melanie Simon.
Sitting there all evening, might as well say something.
I know. My name is Melanie Simon, 8950 West Emerald Street in Boise. I'm the Senior Regional Director for Recovery for Life. And I just wanted to let you know that I've been working for the company now for 10 years in the Boise location and in the Caldwell location. I am not a therapist. I'm the business side of things. But in the time that I have worked for Recovery for Life, I hear the concerns. We get them all the time about safety, and especially around children and people who don't know a lot about the disease of addiction and mental health diagnoses. But we have never had a dangerous incident at either one of our facilities where we have had to get law enforcement. Law enforcement do come to our facilities, but that is for the purpose of finding somebody who they've got a warrant out for, following up on a client if they're staffing with one of our therapists or case managers. We work very hard to help our clients regain their life, regain their families, regain being a productive member of society. In the Boise office, we do have a daycare on site, and we do not accept those who are sex offenders in that location either. So I understand the concerns because that daycare is under my purview as well. So we're very sure to make sure that those who are admitted into our facilities are appropriate for that facility in that location. So I just wanted to let you know that, to let you know that it is an important need here in the city of Nampa. It's unfortunate, but we do have that need out here, and we have been asked to come into this city with our services. We're happy to do so, and we find that this location will work very well for what we need to do to help the citizens of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we have a Jacob Rivard who is for but does not want to speak. And that's everybody on my list. Is there anybody present that hasn't spoke that wants to speak on this? Okay. Any questions for the applicant or staff with you guys?
Make a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Okay, Ron made the motion to close public hearing and Brett seconded it. Weren't fast enough, Steve, sorry. All those in favor to close public hearing?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, we need it.
Yep. And with that, I'll go ahead and, Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we grant the conditional use permit for a treatment center in a BC zoning district at 914 12th Avenue. For Recovery for Life Treatment Center, representing 12th Avenue Ventures LLC, with all conditions.
Second.
Okay, motion by Brett, second by Ron to approve the conditional use permit. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that is approved.
Yes.
Third, it's the 26th. Right? Am I right? Am I right?
What did you ask?
Do we need to do it right now?
Yes, we're gonna do it right now. Okay, we have a mistake on one of our motions for public hearing number 5 that we need to correct, the motion for, tabling it.
Rodney, or
You motioned it.
I did?
you motioned it? but
Okay,
after
I'll
you
modify
said-
my motion for public hearing number 5 to continue that agenda item to January 26th, not February 23rd. Great.
Do you still second it, Jeff?
I do.
Okay, so,
Seconded it.
so public hearing item number 5 is now going to be tabled till January 26th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I'm good.
All right,
You're close. Go ahead.
public hearing number 7. We have an applicant here for this. Come on up, or come on down. There's no prizes, but we'll pay attention, I promise.
My name is Stefania Irimia, and I'm on 1324 East Lewis Lane. That's my address. And we have a piece of property. It's 1.42 acre in Nampa at 4510 Chicago Street that we intend to build our own home. So,
So you're just asking to be part of the city?
Yes.
Be able to hook up to utilities and,
there is no city utilities. on
there's
the
no
property.
utilities there?
No.
Okay. You just,
We want to build a brand new home.
okay. Well, we'll hear from staff, and if we have questions, we'll call you back up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Chair and Commission, Rodney Ashby, Director for Planning and Zoning. Just a little bit of history. We did go through this just briefly on December 8th.
Oh, that's right.
And we discussed this, but the applicant wasn't here. Just miscommunication about where the location should be. No staff report was presented at that time, nor testimony was given, or anyone had shown up. No one had shown up at the meeting to testify. So this was continued at that point to today's meeting. So annexation and zoning is requested to RS 8.5 zoning at 4510 Chicago Street. And the intention is to build a new home and secure a building permit that would not be able to be secured if it was in the county.
Didn't we have this property up before, or was it one right in that area in the past?
So this has come before you on December 8th.
No, but I meant prior to that. I'm just like, that area is, I thought we had another lot.
Not that I know of. There
Okay.
might have been that one just to the north, and I'll talk about that in a
Okay.
minute. Yeah. So the comprehensive plan designation is medium density residential. The proposed zoning is RS 8.5. The size is 1.42 acres. Typically, if the comprehensive plan doesn't recommend that size, but the zoning is compatible. And so what they could do is, and potentially in the future, they could split that down to 8,500 square foot lots and have multiple lots on that location. But right now, they're just requesting a RS 8.5 zoning, so it's compatible with the comprehensive plan. The existing zoning is county RR, rural residential, and so that wouldn't allow for the size of the lot for them to get a building permit. Sorry, I forgot to move through my slides there. There's the RS 8.5 designation to the north and to the east. So to the south is the county rural residential. To the east is the future Stoddard pathway. That area is owned by the city right here for the future Stoddard extension. To the west is county rural residential, large lot county residential. And then to the further to the east is that R6. Over here, you can see that there, R6 PUD for the Lava Springs subdivision. So city water and pressure irrigation systems are not immediately available to the site and are presently located in the following approximate locations. So domestic water is nearest at the intersection of East Locust Lane and Stoddard Pathway, and also in South Gabbro, I think it's Gabbro Way, Lava Springs number 5. And continued use of the existing on-site well is acceptable by engineering. Pressure irrigation nearest is at the intersection of East Locust Lane and Stoddard Pathway, as mentioned before. And continued use of the existing irrigation water rights is acceptable from engineering. Sewer nearest is approximately 150 feet west of East Locust Lane and South Lava Springs Drive intersection, and also in South Gabbro Way, Lava Springs. Continued use of the existing septic system is acceptable. Any new development is required to submit septic plans for approval to Southwest District Health. Okay. Public services, no response was received from city police or fire departments, but the statement that we've provided in the staff report and you've seen before and on the screen was given, basically stating that as development occurs, we're not increasing the number of staff for police and fire. However, in this situation, very, very low impact. And transportation is taken from Locust Lane by a private drive. Okay, correspondence summary is provided here. Nampa Engineering does not oppose the application with following notes. Access to the property is achieved by using Chicago Street. Both a highway district road and a portion is private, as I mentioned. Cherokee Avenue is maintained by the Nampa Highway District, and South Jenny Lane is the private road. Utilities are not immediately available to the site, but as mentioned, they are able to continue the use of the services that are private. No reservations, CenturyLink, they had no reservations if the Lumen facilities are not encroached upon or in conflict with any construction. Nampa Building Department, their standard comments about complying with Title IV. Nampa Parks Department requested that an easement be established along the Reidenbach Canal south side, 20 feet from the top of bank for the future location of the Reidenbach pathway. This pathway is indicated on the City of Nampa's Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan. Nampa Highway District had no objections. Nampa Code Enforcement noted the following violations and requested resolution before annexation. 685 is in our code is unlawful to leave in operation vehicles on private property. There are 4 unlicensed inoperative vehicles on the property. 348 states is about weeds, and they just need to be in compliance with our city code. So correspondence, applicant's legal description incorrectly included multiple properties. Neighbors questioned the annexation of their properties. Staff clarified and requested a new legal description from the applicant, and we received that. Neighbors also expressed concerns about a fence currently being constructed on property that limits access to a neighboring property. The city currently has no authority over the fence placement, but the commission could condition approval of annexation on resolving access issues and or placement of the fence, or could leave that to the applicant and neighbors to resolve. Here are the applicable regulations regarding annexation. And here are the staff recommended findings for annexation and zoning. And I'm happy to look at conditional uses and permitted uses if you have that desire, but that's in your packet as well. And then signs as well. Here are the recommended conditions. They're in your packet. Happy to discuss any of those.
I have one item of discussion. The Reidenbach Canal, is that owned by the city or is that owned by the irrigation company? So don't they, doesn't that easement have to come from them or from the city?
The easement is held by the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District.
Okay. So it's not granted by the city, or it's not our easement to give, so to speak. It's okay.
They would have to get something from NMID.
Okay.
And it'd be in that top right-hand corner. You can see there. That's the closest location of that Reidenbach Canal. Okay. And I place a potential motion on the screen for your consideration.
Ronnie, before we get to that, may I ask a question, please?
You bet.
On page 281, the top paragraph, the very last sentence or two, says about it being a civil matter concerning the Jenny Lane, and we should not, the city has no authority of this property, and the annexation is not recommended by staff. Has that been rescinded, or are you now recommending annexation?
Of the neighboring property. He addressed that before.
Okay, I was out of the room.
It was, their legal description included the neighboring properties. And then so that was where the confusion was.
Okay, so it's okay then?
Correct? No?
No? I'm confused on the question. Well, on page 281, the last sentence is
280.
referring to the owner of the property at 0 Chicago Street claims that an easement for the access to her property. It says this is a civil matter.
Oh.
And the city has no civil matter, and the city has no authority. But the inclusion of this property in annexation is not recommended by the staff and has not followed the legal requirements for annexation because the property owner is not agreeing to annex. So has that been clarified or changed, or am I the only one that reads this?
I was right there with you.
Just talked about it.
He did, though. He said they changed the legal description.
That's correct. So, Madam Chair and Commissioner Kehoe, Madam Chair, your comment is correct. They provided a new legal description that resolved that issue.
Okay.
And the fence, we'll ask the applicant about that and
Yeah,
decide if we want
exactly.
to make that a condition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good enough, thank you.
Okay, do we have anybody signed up for public hearing to speak? Online or? Okay.
I haven't seen any, nor did I get any requests online.
Okay. Can you come back up and answer a question or two for us, please?
My name is Stefania Rinia, 1324 East Lewis Lane in Nampa,
Thank you.
83686.
So the fence, I guess
There
you're.
is no fence on the property.
Okay, but you're wanting to place a fence that would perhaps block a neighbor's access? No.
Not at all.
Okay, so the
People
fence is,
have access to their properties. There is no We're not blocking anybody.
Okay, so fence is not an issue.
No.
Okay.
If it becomes an issue, it's between you and the other property
Right.
owner.
Right.
Can I talk a little bit?
Yes.
That's my
My
husband.
name is Mike Jeremiah. It's her husband, and I put that post. Now it's put some post, but we have in a plus subdivision. We make access for the road, 35 foot, because I put that post probably 60 foot one each other, because they make a wide the road. It's about 60 foot by my property line, 60 foot and going to my property. So that I put that post because now the driving, I put some.
Just to mark the proper.
Okay.
Yeah, just not to make a wide my going to property because that road nobody maintain. And the wind make a little bit hole and that they go to that way, and make a wide. It's
So
just a
they
60
widen
Yeah.
the access.
60 foot.
And
but
they don't like that, but
we have in a plus subdivision, so we make a 35 foot exactly what they said.
I mean, the
so-
property has been surveyed.
Okay.
It's 32 feet.
Sounds like you're doing everything right. The neighbors just got spooked by your
Right.
post out there.
Posted thought it was the beginning of a fence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jeff, second by Steve. To close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, public hearing is closed. Ugh. Okay, what do you guys want to do? Do we have the motion we can put back up there? You turned off your
I
computer.
don't know what happened.
Somebody's ready to go home.
Rodney's ready to leave.
Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and recommend the approval of the annexation and zoning to City Council to RS 8.5, single-family residential at 4510 Chicago Street. I'm gonna butcher this name. I apologize, Mr. and Mrs. Remia, with all conditions of staff.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ron, second by Brett to approve the annexation and zoning. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. You waited through this whole night and got it done finally. Thank you for patience. All right, that is the end of this one.